Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Certain sort of dogged expression evident in the hall as we approach the end of Friday evening, but this stuff is fun. People go on tourism because they like it, so it's very good to be able to come here and talk about it with you. So what does ITOA do? Where's the clicker? Been here 25 years or so. We were founded by companies that bring visitors to Europe. It's got over 700 members. That's tour operators, it's hotels, it's visitor attractions, it's destination management organizations. What we're for is to facilitate growth in tourism in Europe. And we do that through policy work, trade events, we share expertise through seminars and publications. In brief, we think the future for European tourism is bright. 2014 will see continued growth, but we know that our share of the global market is weakening. We need progress on service levels, product and infrastructure. I'm going to focus on three policy issues that definitely feed into the Brussels debate, which strongly affect tourism's competitiveness. So first, taxation. Now, here's an ideal topic for Friday evening. But how we tax tourism really does matter. And the EU has got itself into a mess. Of many problems, I've chosen two. First, we tax exports. And we also give a competitive advantage to non-EU destinations. So we tax tourism exports and prepare for the exciting bit by the tour operator's margin scheme. So this is set up by an EU directive, and operators who sell packaged European travel product to a non-EU entity, okay, pay sales tax on the gross margin to their EU country of establishment. So far, so good, except exactly the same product sold by a business outside the EU is not subject to the same tax. So we're taxing the export of the value-adding expertise sold by EU businesses we want to remain in the EU. And it's no secret that many operators selling EU product are based outside the EU. And to add complexity and uncertainty, the regime is applied differently within the EU. And in September last year, the ECJ found the Commission to be at fault in its attempt to enforce the current law with Spain and some other countries. So it's complicated. We privilege non-EU destinations because the sales tax on the gross margin does not apply if the operator is selling a holiday to a non-EU destination. So when Croatia joined the EU, its EU visitors traveling on packages paid more for the same product. Similarly, Malta is at a competitive disadvantage, if you want to look at it like that, against Turkey and Tunisia. We need to reform this. On taxes, it's also worth mentioning that increases in city overnight taxes and access charges we've seen have been significant. If we're going to tax in this way, there must be some apparent benefit. Otherwise, it just adds to the perception that tourists are an easy target for tax raising and their presence can be taken for granted. No destination can take tourism for granted. It's fickle, it's very easily influenced, and it's entirely discretionary. There's never been so much choice. Next, visas. It's already been mentioned, and actually I think there's been welcome progress in the implementation of the Schengen Visa Code. The UK has done some smart things with China too. More announcements from the Commission are expected on the 19th of March. I think it's going to be good news. What I'd like to do is emphasize on the loss of revenue that comes from not people who are refused visas, but from the much greater number who give up partway through the application process or never bother to apply at all. And just think about this. If you're a sales agent in an overseas country, you're only going to make your commission if you actually sell a holiday. Are you more likely to recommend your customers apply for a European visa prior to buying a tour, or perhaps another less problematic destination, Australia? The consequent loss of business can grow geometrically. We know that we will continue to require visas, but do we always know why? Do we adapt our processes to the risk, or do we apply the same broad brush treatment to all prospective visitors who require a visa? When does a diplomatic tool become an economic impediment? These are difficult questions, but we do ourselves a disservice if we refrain from challenging travel restrictions, somehow because they're a function of statecraft and beyond the remit of industry. Prospective visitors, business and leisure, are entitled to expect that requirements are justified and proportionate, that they're rational and imposed respectfully. Every point of contact they have with us matters. And from Malta's perspective, remember that most long-haul tourists in Europe visit more than one country on each trip. So how might that affect your positioning? Lastly, and in brief, package travel, also thrilling Euro directive. There's a new one. It's going to be voted on in Parliament next week, and we think it's badly flawed. Consumers will still be confused. I think it's unlikely they'll buy a product cross-border. I think regulatory duplication will remain. The proposal punishes the sector that has seen the most growth. We've just heard about the low-cost airlines, and it will do nothing to promote innovation, particularly among the micro-enterprises and SMEs, which represent much of EU tourism and are surely essential in Malta. And at the heart of all of this, it seems to me to be a false paradox. Either you can protect consumers, or you can support business. And this is similar to some of the arguments you hear in the visa debate. Either you can ensure proper safeguards to prevent illegal immigration and assure security, or you can facilitate travel. And the point for visas and for package travel is the same. You can have efficient processes that are well adapted to a global marketplace, and you can ensure proper protection. The EU has enormous potential to grow as an internal tourism market, and crucially for our position competitively as a destination, as we've just heard, that attracts visitors from outside the EU. And established markets, like the US and Japan, as far as Europe in general are concerned, they're still far from mature. There's a lot of growth potential there. Brazil and others, obviously, a huge potential. But it is a competitive market. And if we want wise people to operate businesses here, and if we want more people to visit us, the EU needs to act swiftly and wisely itself. So, what's the opportunity for Malta? Clearly, argue for an enterprising tourism market at a European level, not one that ties itself up in knots. Resist any suggestion that industries and consumers' interests are necessarily divergent. We do much better when we respond to and develop common interests. In terms of your offer, I thought what Mark Watkinson said this morning had a lot of merit. You evidently have an opportunity here to develop higher value-added product. Destinations prosper when they respond intelligently to what prospective visitors need or want, when they take local needs properly into account, and when they focus on what they do well. Malta is surely well placed to do all of these, and we'd be very happy to help in any way we can. Thanks for your attention.